Now the media is sitting here telling lies, like the genuine, and they recognize, but the people are the ones that getting wise.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf.
But the people are the ones that getting wise.
All right, what is going on, guys? And it is Friday night, and there's a lot to get into, so we're going to get right into it. Of course, we are going to start off with Iran. Iran has likely carried out an undeclared missile test, or at least that is what they are saying. They are saying out of Dubai that Iran has likely carried out an undeclared missile test at its Khamenei spaceport. Satellite photos analyzed by the Associated Press showed Thursday, underlining Tehran's effort to maintain its weapons program despite the 12-day war with Israel in June. Iran has not formally acknowledged last week's test at a circular pad that has hosted other major launches at the country's civilian space program. A single lawmaker in Iran's parliament, however, claimed without offering evidence that Tehran tested a possible intercontinental ballistic missile. Funny timing that this is coming out today, the same time that North Korea, or South Korea, mind you, the president is saying that North Korea is now making intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach the U.S. The overall theme of the day is nuclear fear. But this is something that is possibly going to be used to not only have everybody, saying, hey, we should be doing something about this, but also be used later as part of the reasons why we might need to go to war. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. We're going to talk about this and much, much more on tonight's show on today's Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Everybody have a good day. Bum, baby, bum, bum, baby. Everybody have a good day.
All right, before we move on, let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugel fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, so first of all, they have Iran possibly doing these tests. You've got North Korea and South Korea. You also have all of this stuff going on with NATO and these drones. This has been like the whole week. Dex, do you want to talk about all the sightings that supposedly are happening in Denmark and in other areas around it?
Yeah, this is crazy. Now that we talked about the first drone sighting that was over an airport, 2 airports in Denmark, which caused delays. Then we reported last night it was up to 4 airports. Now they're saying there's possibly recording over 500 drone sightings in the area. So members of the public in Denmark have recorded over 500 drone sightings in the past 24 hours after Scandinavia was targeted in a series of aerial attacks that some European officials have linked to Russia. I think that's the key thing you got to pay attention to here. They are absolutely trying to point the finger at Russia on this. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows that there's evidence to actually do that. Outside of just the circumstantial evidence of the actions that have been happening and the escalation. And when you see something, you sort of go, aha, we know who that probably is. But the population is full of fear following the drone incursion that shut down the 2 airports, as we spoke about on Wednesday. And then the second incident in the following from Monday night's drone disruptions over the Copenhagen airport. So the officials are continuing to investigate who the professional actor is behind the attacks. And they're suggesting that, that they think it might be Russia, but others are pointing the finger there, but they don't. As I say, I still don't think they've actually brought any proof to the table that it is Russia.
Yeah, and we'll talk about here in a second, I believe. Yeah, so we'll talk about the possible response to this and the ideas that are flying around right now in just a moment. But Kremlin slams the idea of NATO downing Russian planes. So they're publicly coming out. They're commenting about how they think this is nuts and it's reckless. Kremlin on Friday slammed the suggestion that NATO allies shoot down Russian airplanes entering airspace as reckless after President Donald Trump said the alliance members should do so. Remember, that was a complete 180 from what he said before. Several NATO countries say that Russian fighter jets and drones have violated their airspace in Europe over recent weeks, accusing Moscow of testing the alliance. Asked on Tuesday whether he thought NATO states should shoot down any Russian planes that violate its airspace, Trump said, yes, I do. Now, maybe this is because when the drones went all across Ukraine and into Poland, maybe he found out information, maybe he found out intelligence that it was indeed on purpose after he went on, live TV and said, well, maybe it was an accident. Maybe it wasn't an accident, and the crap that he got for that on top of the last couple days of getting the escalator stopped at the UN, having a teleprompter purposely stopped while he's speaking. Maybe all of this, he's just like pissed off. He's like, you know what, screw these guys. I don't know, but one thing is for sure, they're moving forward on this, and this is a freight train right into World War III. People really need to realize what's going on. We'll talk about the generals being called home here in a minute too, because people are just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Just wait until you hear what they say this is, and I'm telling you, it is just like the Tyler text messages. It basically answers all of the things that everybody said. And I feel like their new strategy is just to go with whatever reasonable thing that people have a theory. And they're like, yeah, let's say that's what it is. Just wait. You'll see. It does not make any sense, at least not in my opinion. But the Kremlin is basically coming out saying this is absolutely crazy. Now, before we move on, make sure to get your hands on an Energy solar generator before they're gone, because this is a small batch. Again, this is one of the best solar generators on the market, and once this batch is gone, if the buy button is not there, you will not be able to purchase it anymore. Now, as far as the availability on the batteries, that is going to be a whole lot different than the actual head unit, which you need the head unit no matter what. Again, you can go over and check this out. It is steel reinforced frame. Excuse me. It is, again, it's got those huge clamps that you can just go bam, bam, click, go from 5 batteries to 1 battery and take it with you. It's portable. It's got a built-in heater for extreme cold temperatures. It is weather and water resistant. The thing is absolutely a beast. This thing is made for the U.S. Army. No joke. It won the SBR Phase 1 contract, which also means there has to be specific specifications to how it is loaded as far as the software and everything that is on it. The hardware and the software, everything has to be done and front-loaded in the U.S. So make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/energy, I-N-E-R-G-Y, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. If you don't know how useful a solar generator can come in handy, when this is charged, the power goes out, you can just start plugging your stuff into this, and boom, you've got yourself a power source. The next day, you can then put solar panels out, which are now extremely cheap while we still have a supply chain, and you can then put those solar panels out and then recharge it for free. Again, once you've invested in a system, it is an awesome thing. I'm sure most of you have experienced a house with solar. It is quite cool, and it is getting better as far as the technology and how the technology is getting better with batteries and everything else. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Again, that also has the newer battery technology in there, so make sure to go check that out. All right, and then EU is to move forward. This is the response with plans for a drone wall amid Russian incursions. This drone wall, which actually I was going to show you here on that one of the last stories, they actually have kind of I think they have a diagram here of what it sort of looks like. Dex, do you want to talk about the drone wall idea?
Yes, certainly. So the EU has agreed to move forward with plans for a drone wall at the heart of its eastern defenses as momentum grows for a $140 billion loan to Ukraine based on a Russian frozen asset. So there's another thing that's going to really irritate Russia is when they take 140 billion of Russian assets and give it to Ukraine to fight Russia with. So keep in mind, that's just a side note here. But building this drone wall is critical. So after a meeting with the ministers from 10 mostly Central and Eastern European member states, plus Ukraine, the EU Defense Commissioner Andreas Kubilius said a drone wall to protect against incursions from the sky was an immediate priority and a core element of the bloc's eastern flank defense. The issue has risen the agenda after a spat of drone incursions, which we've covered well here, everything from Denmark to Poland to Romania to Estonia. We've covered all of them that have been happening lately. Kubilius said it was urgent to have an effective detection system, including radars and acoustic sensors, as well as the capabilities to intercept and destroy the drones. The commissioner acknowledged the potential mismatch in cost involved in drone defense, which is my point. Like, if they're going to spend $1 million to take down a $10,000 drone, that's crazy. So he said if you're using air-to-air missiles or air missiles from your air fighter to shoot down a drone, then you're using a missile which costs $1 million to take out a drone that costs 10,000. He's saying the same thing I've said. So yeah, this is important, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have a solution, although they have been talking quite a bit about energy-based systems or other types of systems that can take them down. I know we saw the recent launch of what do they call it? The what's the new dome, Adam, in Israel?
Iron Beam?
Yeah, Iron Beam. So the beam, as they call it, which is obviously energy based, so it doesn't cost a lot. It's like they call it, like, it's about as expensive as turning on a light switch, which means it pretty much has unlimited ammo and can keep firing over and over again. That's ideal, as opposed to $1 million a pop to take down $10,000 drones.
And they're talking about all these different systems. There's of course there's these smaller companies that have been coming up with all sorts of ideas. Some of them have their videos openly on YouTube because they're trying to get the attention of the U.S. government. I've seen plenty of these small kind of inventors coming up with different ideas of how to take these things down, from net guns, of course, which they actually are utilized in certain countries. These guns that literally have a net shooter straight out of Batman. And then you have, of course, lasers, you have machine guns. The manual, we actually read over the manual here on the show for tanks taking them out. They would essentially line up and they would basically fire in front of them, and they would see which way they were going, and they would shoot a little bit and then have flak knock them out of the sky. They have the AI jamming technology, the air shield defense system, which is a long-range AI radar and electronic warfare, which that makes a lot of sense too if they can get that perfected. But this is something we have to think about, because if we get into a massive scale war, if we ever have anybody on our shores, this is something that we have to worry about. And this is exactly why the U.S. government is designing this whole golden dome system and talking about drone protection here at home. That's a freaky part too, is they are actually now talking about at home. So.
And what do you think would happen, Adam, in the next 7 days, 30 days, even 6 weeks, if Russia decided to just put a whole bunch of drones in the air into Poland or into Estonia or any of those locations? Do you think that they actually have the technology right now to take them out without shooting $1 million missiles? I think they're going to have to spend that money. And I think that's one of the things that Putin sort of tested the few times he has crossed the line in Poland, was to see what the response was, like what was really going to happen. Not only were they going to shoot them down, but what were they going to use to shoot them down? And of course, they used missiles from planes, which is expensive.
Well, think about if that was the entire strategy, that they just keep bombarding them with these cheaper drones, then they have to be taken out with these missiles, and they try to just waste all of the missiles of a country, and then somebody else comes in and mops them up, or you have multiple countries team up and then send even more and more and more until they literally run out. and they don't have a defense against it. I would think that if you were going to attack a country, and everybody now is trying to get these defense systems up, is you would try to attack and get into a war before everybody has some sort of defense against this. This is a newer thing, and that is kind of wild to think about, that with all this, the technological advances we've had in the last 40 years, that just in the past few, these drones have become the most dangerous. It was very cute when we all had, I'm sure most of you have experienced or probably flown a little DJI drone over the last 10 years, or at least tried one or seen somebody with one. But that technology was huge. Like growing up, for you to get like a remote controlled helicopter, it was expensive. It was wieldy. It took a lot of knowledge. It was much harder than it was to control than the ones now. Now, these things are the easiest things ever. It's like playing a video game. Anybody can fly a drone in today's day and age. If you haven't tried one, they are so freaking easy. And they have so many radars now on them that you can, an idiot could use their buttocks and fly a DJI drone. And that's, again, one of the countries that designs that DJI. I can only imagine, because everything that comes to the consumers, they are doing absolutely nefarious things with on the actual military side. That was my comment with those at that exoskeleton last night. I can't imagine what the Chinese military is doing with their exoskeletons. Dex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I was just looking it up, and it says that sometime around June, it was reported that Russia had ramped up the drone production of those, I think it's the Shahed type drones, to 2,700 a month. Okay, so if they can produce 2,700 of those a month, let's just say they take 1 month's worth of drones and shoot that over into NATO countries, and we got to spend $1 million to take each one down. That's like $2.7 billion, like gone. And it could happen in a matter of, 10 days. They could probably do it all at once if they really wanted to, but that's just 1 month's production. I don't know that anybody else is producing, maybe Ukraine is, but I don't know that, we're producing that. But we definitely I don't feel like we've got a system in place to be able to handle that level of incoming drones like they want. Like they talk about this drone wall, but it's like, okay, you got it, but you don't have it. You're just going to put a bunch of planes on the border, and you're going to use radar to detect, and you're going to scramble, and you're going to shoot them down. But what are you going to do when 2,700 are coming across?
Yep, exactly. And any country, including our own, needs to think about that right now. And I'm sure that that's on the docket. Zelensky asked Trump for Tomahawk missiles capable of hitting Moscow. Now, Dex, do you remember what we talked about? I just talked about this 2 nights ago. I said, watch, they're going to try to hit the Kremlin.
Yep.
I said, just watch. In the next couple of days, we're going to see them hit the Kremlin. You can go to 2 night shows ago. And I was talking about this, and I said, what do you want to bet that the next thing on the docket after they go through these oil refineries is to directly hit the Kremlin? I just talked about this. And now they're asking for Tomahawk missiles capable of hitting Moscow. It's the most predictable thing. I'm not a genius. I'm not a crystal ball holder. This is just freaking obvious. It's obvious where this is going next. Dex, if they get Tomahawks, these Tomahawks are extremely accurate, and they're extremely dangerous.
1,000 miles. It would be by far the longest missile in their arsenal if they get it. So, yeah, a very big deal if this happens. Now, just because he's asking for it doesn't mean he's going to get it, but I think even Trump had made side comments that, like, yeah, maybe they should go further in, and maybe they should start using our technology to do it.
Again, hold on here. Something's going on with this cord here. There we go. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky sends a warning to Russian officials saying they have to know where their bomb shelters are. They need it. If they will not stop the war, they will need it in any case. He put that little warning out, and I said, that was the warning. I said, just watch. Something's going to happen. Whenever he says this, that there's usually some sort of thing. The last time he made a comment, and it just seemed very bravado and out there, one of the presidential limos blew up out of nowhere. And now he said this, and I said, yeah, I bet you they're going to try to hit this. Everything they've asked for, they've received, but that was under the last president. I don't know about this president, but, every time they asked for something, we talked about this for 3 years straight, Dex. It was like if they asked for man pads, they got them. If they asked for tanks, they got them. If they asked for jets, they got them. They got everything. And now they're asking for tomahawks. They asked for shadow missiles or the whatever they're called, Shadowhawk or whatever from the UK, and they got them. The Storm Shadow. I think they're Storm Shadow, right? Is that what they're called, Dex?
Yeah, Storm Shadow.
Yeah. They asked for those, and they got them. Everything they have asked for, they have received. So if they're asking for tomahawks, I don't know. I somehow I think that even though we have President Trump, I believe that they're going to get it. And then this mysterious meeting, you have to hear this because I and there's so many people that have, now put comments under and go, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And then they're correcting any post that says, oh yeah, this is weird. First of all, this is unprecedented to have a in-person meeting. The left media, Dex predicted this too, that it will be a pep rally for the warrior ethos. And it was what everybody was talking about. It was the most logical and least scary reason why all of our brigadier generals and above would be coming home to Virginia to have an in-person closed-door meeting. And this is what they're saying. They're saying that this is going to be a closed-door pep rally, that they are going to talk about the direction that they're heading and to make sure that everybody is rowing the same direction and talk about the new warrior ethos of the military. And they're pulling out generals and brigadier generals and their staff and everybody out of conflict zones in active duty, in active conflict zones, straight out of the battle from all across the planet to come back to supposedly, get this, to listen to a speech from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and that's it. They said, oh yeah, and that's currently the only thing on the docket, and get this thing is not going to be aired, but they said, oh yeah, and we're totally going to record this speech, and it will be aired at a later date. Possibly a week later or 2 weeks later when no one is paying attention and when no one cares anymore, right? Or they will not air it and say, actually, there was parts that were secure. They're saying that this is, again, a secretive meeting just to basically go hear the Secretary of War do a speech about how we all need to be going the same direction. I don't believe it, and I think that people that are this gullible to believe that this is happening like this really need to watch, and just watch what happens after Tuesday. I bet you we're going to see all sorts of changes. This is a closed door, and he says it is an eyeball-to-eyeball meeting to really see if everybody's rowing the same direction. They are going with the narrative that the media and that everybody, the most likely thing, because after this came out and was not supposed to come out, and this is what I heard, that liberal-leaning generals went and directly tattletaled to different journalists that got this out. That's what I heard, that this was not supposed to be talked about, that the original memo said do not say anything, that this is not to be talked about, and that these guys specifically went and told the journalists and did something bad. Normally when they tell the journalists it's meant to happen, I don't think it was meant to happen this time. So what do? They tell you that it's nothing and that they're just doing a speech and it's a pep rally. Why? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because that's what everybody is saying that this is about. The warrior ethos that he talks about in this, he mentions it himself. That is something that he mentioned in his book in 2024, The War on Warriors. It is something that he has talked about a lot, the core strength and values of the military. And essentially, he's talked about it. The liberal media has made fun of him for. They have straight up gone after him and to the warrior ethos. And they always quote it like, oh, the warrior masculine ethos. It almost sounds like he's trolling them by saying, yeah, we're going to be doing a pep rally on the warrior ethos, eyeball to eyeball, and make sure everybody. And then they say, oh, it might be about them possibly firing people because they just let go 20% of their generals. Mind you, you actually should have gotten rid of those before when Elon was doing all of the books, because guess what? There's this many active ships, 291, and then 310 freaking admirals of ships. you've got a few extras. Maybe you could have them either on a desk or doing something else. But no, you keep them on the payroll and costing money. Dex, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and I think you're spot on in the sense that it probably wasn't supposed to come out to begin with, but then after it came out, now we have, as they even said in here, that they were granted anonymity to discuss the internal conversations. So, in other words, they came out later and were granted anonymity to talk about it, meaning the military said, you can go speak, just make sure you say it's anonymous so you don't have it attributed to your name. But that is, again, like you're saying, to reinforce this narrative that, hey, the media is running with this narrative. Let's let them run with it and let's give it to them, which is, it's, a pep rally or whatever you want to call it. Right. There's something that it just seems something so much more odd with this. I mean, who knows what it is? Who knows? Maybe a meteor is coming in next week or, 31 Atlas or something like that. And they want all the generals in one place so they can put them underground. I don't know. But that would be extreme, to be honest. But, there's just something else here besides a pep rally. I just don't see it as that.
And they're saying that it's just for this scheduled speech, that they're pulling him out of active duty zones just to go hear him speak, and that they can be eyeball to eyeball and look at him. That's the narrative that they actually put out before when it first leaked. And when I say that, I heard this, there's active duty military members that said, no, our bosses are freaking absolutely heated, that they've heard people talking about this, that they literally went and essentially did something that was traitorous and said this. Now, when they say that they were granted anonymity to talk about this, they did that after the fact. This was not supposed to get out. This was angry, secret, other way-leaning things that absolutely hate Pete Hegseth, hate the president, and hate everybody that went and talked to the media and told them this whole thing. And it changed everything. And who knows what's actually going to happen on Tuesday. But this was a huge logistical nightmare to have all of the generals, brigadier general and above, in all 5 military branches, all come to Virginia at Quantico all at the same time. People said, I just want to add one more thing. People were like, oh my God, how stupid are they to put all these military leaders in the same place at one time? I said, this is Quantico, not Qdoba. They're not meeting in a public, Starbucks. These guys are in one of these, in a hardened base called Quantico. They're perfectly safe and secure and secretive. They can have any kind of talk that they want there, and then a week later put out some sort of corny speech that they just now have to write because they didn't realize that the media was going to know about this thing. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and the other thought I had is they could have known that the media was going to get this and that's why they didn't put a lot of information in it. But they did that potentially to figure out who the rest of the people are that they need to lay off. In other words, who's running their mouth, who's leaking.
Good point. Good point.
So this could have been just a giant trap for that.
That's a great point, Dex. They could have watched to see who is going to let them know about this frickin' meeting. And see who communicate. They could be tracking all of the 800 different brigadier generals and above. They could have tapped their phones and said, watched all of them and said, we're having this top secret meeting, and then watch who goes to the Washington Post or the New York Times to go tattle on what this meeting was about. Great point. All right, thank you. By the way, we have a new member. Thank you. Evidence Room has just joined the fam. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then thank you, Tony Kutla, Hammer Guy, Carmen Petraco. We've got Eric Zimmerman. We've got Bobby Sue. Thank you for modding. Of course, thank you, Ilea, for modding. It's so awesome to have you here. Eldon Badger, like the moonlight. Happy Quells Farm, what is happening? And then Kurt Landgraf. We have, of course, Rodney Ramsey. We have Jasper Silver and Shastina. Thank you. I hope that you do come back because there's a lot of crazy stuff here. Dex, let's talk about Russia is helping China to prepare for the potential invasion of Taiwan.
Yeah, so apparently they're doing a lot. Specifically, they're doing a lot of parachuting and airdrop training for China. But this is all coming out of a document around 800 pages of information and analysis from the Royal United Services Institute. So Russia is not only selling military equipment and technology to China that could help Beijing prepare for an airborne invasion of Taiwan, according to the analysis of that document, they're also training them too, apparently. So including 800 pages of documents, including contracts, lists of equipment supplied by Moscow to Beijing from the Black Moon hacktivist group, which previously published some of the documents online. It does not identify its members, but describes itself in a manifesto as opposed to governments that carry out aggressive foreign policy. So that hacktivist group, I guess, had gotten hands on these documentations and put it out. But the authors of the RUSI report shared some of the documents with the AP and say they appear to be genuine, although parts of the documents may have been omitted or altered. So they're still having trying to verify the authenticity of this information. But the mix is completed an apparent draft of Russian documents referencing meetings between Chinese and Russian delegations, including visits to Moscow, payment and delivery timelines for high-altitude parachute systems, amphibious assault vehicles. They suggest that Russia has begun work on products to be delivered, but don't contain direct evidence from the Chinese side that Beijing has paid any money or received any equipment yet. At least that was at that level or that point in the documentation that could have happened by now. So, but nonetheless, it makes total sense as, China is preparing to do this invasion into Taiwan, crossing the water, dropping from air, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to be wanting to gain as much tactical advantage as possible, whether it's they build it themselves or in this case they gather new technology or other technology and insights from their respective allies like Russia, their no limits partner, Putin.
And this makes perfect sense. I mean, you have all of these countries that are teaming up. Not only are they drilling together, they are giving each other technology to help each other in their goals that they want. The thing is China and Russia are working together. They're saying, hey, we don't care about this. You can have that. We want this. We want this. And they're helping each other hit their goals. In the same way that they're offering, you've got North Korea and Venezuela and all of these other parties, they all want to be sat at the table. And they're saying, hey, you will get a seat at this table if you help us take out the sleeping giant, the United States. That's what's going to happen. Again, the Chinese School of Airborne Landing is very young, he said, suggesting Moscow's assistance could help speed up China's airborne program by about 10 or 15 years. So when you have battle-hardened actual troops that can do this and teach this and do this, and part of that program just being infused into China's, that's a huge, huge help to China. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. We highly, highly recommend this. If you haven't gotten this on your vehicles yet, then I would highly recommend it because this is going to ground the signal before it fries your device from not only an EMP strike from any adversary, but also a CME or a Carrington level event from the sun. If you've seen, they just said this about a week and a half ago that the sun is waking up. It's supposed to be the end of the peak and going back down. Instead, they're saying it's acting up. So again, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is easy to wire into your car. It takes less than 10 minutes. You don't need a mechanic. You do not need a handyman to do this. You can do this yourself. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground. And then you just bolt it into part of your chassis with some self-tapping bolts. Very, very easy. Again, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. And then also you check out, they have ones for your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators. Starlink's modem is what is being shown on the screen, their new one, which is plug and play. A lot of them are plug and play, like all the generator versions for Energy and XP bug out. All right, that's marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. All right, and then we have South Korea fires warning shots to repel North Korean vessels breaching sea boundary. As they're saying that, hey, these guys could strike you here in America, they are also having this kind of interaction, which it just makes sense. They are lining up for all of these wars to happen all at the same time. Dex, do you want to talk about the warning shots that just went off in South Korea?
Of course. So South Korea's military said it fired warning shots early Friday to drive away North Korean merchant ships that briefly crossed the disputed Western Sea boundary between the two neighbors there. The ship crossed the northern limit line near the South Korean border island of Benyang around 5 a.m., but retreated after South Korea military issued an audio warning and fired warning shots. I would probably get out of there too if a military ship is firing upon you. There were no immediate reports that North Korean forces returned fire or responded with force. The response was carried out in accordance to operational procedures, and the military remains in heightened state of readiness to firmly safeguard the territorial waters, according to the South's Joint Chief of Staff.
Yeah, so great. By the way, great comment. Says if the USA is starting World War III, Congress needs to know. Sleeping Bear FFG, there's been a lot of things over the years where a lot of the Congress may already know, odd things like giving them all satellite phones and different things. They're expecting some sort of thing. All the bases that are preparing for a potential Pearl Harbor-like attack, there's all sorts of signs that a lot of these guys already know. But yes, you are right. They have to go to the Congress if they're going to do that. And I bet you they're going to talk to the generals first and have all 100% confidence. And they're going to say, hey, all of our generals are ready for this. We have a plan. We have this. We're working it out. And then bring that to Congress, because they're not going to go to Congress with no plan. Let's see here. Thank Carmen Petraka and Shastina. Again, thank you for being here. Eric Zimmerman, we have Colin Byerly. I think I said that right. DeShiznit, thank you. Didn't expect anyone to see that comment. Let's see. Patrix421, WIS Jen, and Robert Kennedy. Yes, you're right, Adam. Something big is coming. I hope it's not. I really do. I don't want a war for the United States, especially if it happens the way I think it is. I'm worried about here on our homeland. And then, Dex, talk about the petition calling on Keir Starmer to scrap the digital ID. Hits a million.
So before the petition, the obvious reason for the petition is the fact that he also announced the mandatory digital ID for all UK citizens. So he came out and said, we're doing that, and we're going to have this mandatory identification for everybody, and it's to help with our secure border and controlling migration and reasonable demands in the government, et cetera, for protecting the citizens and protecting other things. And of course, immediately everybody is up in arms. Like, who wants a digital ID? Nobody does, really, that I know of.
Some bull.
Yeah. So immediately there's over 1 million people in the same day have signed a petition to scrap this. Not that the petition means anything other than just showing a bunch of voices. I don't know that anything will come of it, but again, the key part here is that the Prime Minister in UK has put in place this new digital ID for all UK citizens, or anybody in the UK is going to have this.
Yeah, this is some bull. And when you have it over here, just watch, because I don't know if you're watching from the UK, I feel sorry for you. You are already having all of these things go on with online, and people coming to your door in several European countries just because of what you said online. This is something that has to stop. It has to be nipped in the bud before it continues. And that means U.S. thinks that this will never happen here. If our allies do this in European nations, then they will set up and they'll have this. And I'm sure that there will be some benefits from this. They will catch lots of things. They will grab and cherry pick the right kind of stats and say, we have stopped this many crimes, or we've done this, or we've found this many people because of this, and we've stopped this much crime from happening. But guess what? That also comes with a price. That then they'll say, we have all these stats to prove it. Then the U.S. will say, we need to do this because look at how well it's worked over here. There are some things that we have to sacrifice as a country to have privacy, to have freedom, and that is one of them. We cannot sacrifice is this whole digital ID system is not something that we can do. Russian official issues nuclear threat to Trump's America. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, look, we have our real ID that we rolled out. It's not digital, but I would say that there are states that have now offered the digital version of that. So we're not far off from having this. We are literally like one step away with a mandate of saying, hey, that real ID that we had to go out and create, we now want it to be digital and take it to that next level where everybody has to have this, digital identity associated with that real ID. In my state here in Georgia, you can now get your driver's license on your phone. It works as far as like if a cop pulls you over, you can just scan your phone and your real ID and everything is on there for them. So that, it's here. It's just not mandated yet. The real ID portion is mandated, but the digital identity part is not. We're one step away.
Excuse me, just had a huge sneeze. K Wildman, thank you so much. No digital ID. No digital ID equals no money. Oh, yeah. Just wait until you can't access bank accounts without some sort of form of digital ID. K Wildman, it's all part of the plan, the Great Reset. Get ready for a Black American flag attack. Oh, I get you. Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. And then Russian officials issues a nuclear threat. This is usually when you see these things, this is all fear. The media is going to syndicate this, put across the country, talk about the fear of nuclear threats. Mainly, I never really get shook up by these. One thing I will point out, though, is the fact that this is syndicated across the board, AP to AF, and you're looking at the reasoning and the seed being put into people's heads that aren't smart enough to discern that they are totally getting us prepared for a war and explaining the reasons why we need to. Dmitry Medvedev, a high-ranking Kremlin official who says this stuff on a daily basis, who's said it for years. It's just the timing of when they actually repeat his comments. That's what makes sense. When there's all of these other stories from North Korea coming up, Iran testing, and then Dmitry Medvedev says this crap every day. You know why they said it today? Because of the North Korea story, because of the Iran story testing, because of North Korea possibly having an ICBM that can reach America. They have a syndicated narrative right now about nuclear threats to America that gets people afraid, and then people will go, we need to protect ourselves. And literally there are people out there that are writing letters to their Congress saying, you need to go to war with these people, you need to take them out, we're the big bad US, we need to take these people off of the frickin' block and protect America in this way. There are tons of people doing that, and you may not see them because they are not in our sphere. I'm telling you that right now. It's just insane. Dex, it's like you see all of these stories pop up in the same exact day on a Friday, right before the weekend. People are now going to be concerned about this over the weekend and be checking the news and worried about this kind of stuff. And we all think of it like it's nothing. We're all desensitized to this. But there are so many regular people that get so afraid by these nuclear threats, the ICBMs, the North Koreas, the Irans, and then they just freak out and they think that the government's not doing enough to protect us from the threat.
Well, it's not just what we've reported today. It's what we reported the day before, the day before, the day before that. I mean, we go back, we had B-2 bombers going across. We were reporting going across the Atlantic. We had nuclear doomsday planes being flown in Europe and being flown in America. We had the nuclear drills from France that were going on where they were flying all their stuff. All of the nuclear talk and rhetoric has just amped up this week to almost a fever pitch in the sense that it's just everywhere. And, to the common person, they're going to probably be they're going to get a little bit more nervous and a little bit more worried about what's happening because it's not been a conversation that's normally been taking place in the media as much as say it is in say our channels or in our niche where a lot of us, in the prepping community would talk about these things and we cover it quite a bit because we pay attention to all the little details that may or may not be happening. But yeah, this week has really been a big ramp up.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly just to read you the quote, we read this over on Marfoogle News, but one of the quotes, he talks about the drug-addicted Vladimir Zelensky, and he says, "What the freak needs to know is that Russia can use weapons a bomb shelters won't protect against." That's a direct response, because remember, Zelensky said, "You guys are going to need to know where your bomb shelters are." He's saying, we have weapons that you will not be able to protect against, and you won't be able to go down to your bomb shelters. And Americans should keep this in mind as well. Or Americans should also keep this in mind. That was a direct quote. Somebody said, Dmitry Medvedev is a clown. Well, yeah, he's a former president / former puppet, and he's continued to be in this puppet thing. He says all the things that Vladimir Putin is too stoic to say, right? He says the scary stuff, and it's just almost directly him that says all of the scary stuff. Sergei Lavrov and him are the two people that say the most terrifying stuff all the time. It's so much so that it's not terrifying. It's just this guy talking on a Wednesday. Oh, we nuked them from the, we nuked the dogs through the... It's like when North Korea says that he's going to destroy us like dogs. It's like nobody cares anymore. Dmitry Medvedev has a big mouth. What is concerning, though, is the messaging behind this. We're more worried about this starting an actual war because they are getting the seeds planted in the civilians' minds. A lot of the gullible people out there, they are going to call for a war because they're afraid. Fear turns into anger. It's just like the guy in the garbage can that pops out and scares somebody. What's somebody's first response? Ah! And then what's the next? Punch the guy that pops out of the garbage can. Fear turns into anger real quick. All right, and then just want to remind you guys, make sure to go check out Jace if you don't have antibiotics on hand. If we ever go to war with China, that's one thing that is going to go away fast. They actually make over 90% of the all of the antibiotics, and they make 97% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients that go inside them. So if you do want to have yourself a backup kit with all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics, you can go to Jace, do a quick appointment through your phone, tablet, or something, pretty much any device, and you can talk to a board-certified doctor and get yourself a kit with all of those in it. You also have an add-on list where you can add on things like albuterol. It all depends. You're talking to a board-certified doctor, so you can get anything on that add-on list if that is something you need. All right, and then thank you so much, K Wildman. It's all part of the plan. Great reset. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for supporting Independent. I appreciate all of you tonight, especially our new member. We've got Evidence Room. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then thank you, everyone that showed up tonight. Thank you, Dex, for everything you do today. Thank you for your service.
Much love. Great job, brother.
And you guys have a wonderful night. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. K Wildman, top supporter.
Everybody have a good day. Bum,